Hey, what's up, guys? It is Jesse, and we are coming at you with the episode 5 of Yinzers Yak. Um, this will be preview day. Lots of big games this weekend. Looking forward to talking about some of the major highlights, and there's games that are huge this week that we won't even be talking about just simply because there's a lot of stuff happening this weekend, and it's just we don't have the time to talk about it. We don't want to bore you guys too much.
To keep it simple.
Yeah, we like to do that here every week. Simplify it a little bit. I guess we'll just talk about the Thursday night first before we head into the preview. So Houston ends up coming out on top this weekend, or I'm sorry, not this weekend.
Past week.
Thursday, yes. End up coming up on top 42 to 23. And I'd say kind of a commanding win. It didn't look so much like it was going to be a blowout towards the beginning there, but then Houston kind of just slowly started to dominate. So my first thought on this, Watson back to last year's form. I'm gonna let you say your piece first, Marty, and then we'll kind of say what I need to say about it.
Yeah, I'm sticking with him being back to the way he looked last year. We've been talking about this. I feel like for the past couple weeks, like that's all they really need to get going with how good the defense has been. And he definitely had the kind of game where you could say he is back to the way he was last year. He was 16 for 20 this past Thursday, 239 yards. Not crazy in the yardage department. However, he did have 5 touchdowns. Two of the passes, we touched on this a little bit. They've been making some plays, 20 plus yarders. They continue to do that as well. He had a 73 yarder and a 49-yard pass in this game. It's basically exactly what we've been saying. Once he gets back to form, they will be good to go. And looking forward to their schedule, looking ahead to their schedule. If they can keep rolling with this offense and defense, they could run away with this division.
Yeah, I really think that he's coming back into true form. Like you said, we've been talking about it for a couple weeks here now. It's not that he's been playing bad, just hasn't been playing his showy self
Yeah, he just
like he
hasn't been
was
making the
last
plays
year.
that he was used to making, and that's definitely what he did on Thursday.
Yeah, and I think coming back from an injury like he was, that obviously you're not going to come right back into form, and nobody ever does. Some people don't ever truly get back to how they were before the injury, but with this game, it definitely showed a good summary of his last season. Like you said, didn't have too many pass yards this game. Would you say 239? I think I know it
Yeah,
was under
239.
250.
Yeah,
Um, but obviously five touchdowns is huge, especially when you start to dominate the game and he kind of just takes over from there. Sometimes you don't need 400-yard games. 5 touchdowns, I think, in most cases, will do it for you to help you get the win. So I think Watson is slowly returning back to form if he can kind of continue this well of play. That next week is going to be a breeze for him in the upcoming weeks. I am curious to see if the run game can also stay consistent with Watson, because I feel like this tandem, then Houston's going to be a scary team because their defense is still looking very good.
yeah, and touching on the run game, Miller and even Alfred Blue, they both came off of pretty big games. Miller had 133 yards on the ground on 18 attempts. He also had a touchdown, and Alfred Blue had 15 attempts for 42 yards. It's a good little combo that they have with the two of them. And then if you add Watson to that and he starts running the ball a little bit more, they're going to be really lethal on the ground. Continue
Hey,
to be lethal, I should say.
Miller, waiver wire target for fantasy here. Any fantasy fans? I'd definitely start picking him up if he's obviously not taken in your league, because I know he got dropped in our league for a little bit and somebody else picked him up because he wasn't doing so hot. But he's looking to be stepping up his game a little bit here. So if he can continue playing how he's playing, I think they might might trade over the bulk of the carries just to him, as opposed to kind of giving Blue a fair share of his carries. We'll see that going forward, but I think Miller's kind of found his stride in the run game and found what he needs to do in order to be successful.
Yeah, they're a real scary team right now. And just to point out the rest of their schedule here, they have Denver, Washington, Tennessee, Cleveland, Indy, the Jets, Philadelphia, and Jacksonville. Out of all that on paper, that looks like a schedule that a lot of good teams could probably win out. I would say for them, Philadelphia is probably their biggest concern going forward. But they could, it's hard to see them winning out, but I definitely think they could do it.
Yeah, and who knows in Philly that cheesesteak is collapsing
Yes, it
real
is.
quick. Um, in looking on paper at those defenses right there, not very. mm, I'd say a majority of those defenses not very good against the run. Obviously, Denver we've talked about is horrendous. Cleveland's been pretty iffy on the run defense, and Indy also. So going forward, I believe they'll be able to keep the run game consistent. And like you said, they're most very solid teams would be able to just kind of win that out. I feel they might win it or lose a game here or two out of that, but I think going forward they should just be able to roll through with the season.
Yeah, they definitely got the more difficult portion of the season out of the way, and they came out at 5-3, obviously on a 5 game win streak. So should be smooth sailing if everything can stick together going forward here.
Yeah, the Houston train has definitely left the station. So the defense for the Texans, obviously, they were a big part of the win this game. I feel almost it was more so defense here than the offense just outplaying Miami. Obviously, Miami went up against Chicago and put up the numbers that they did, and then ended up winning in overtime. Um, I I think in order for Houston to stop Miami like they did after Miami kind of figured out Chicago's defense, which people have been having trouble against all year, I think it was huge for the D to kind of make a stand and say that we're here to play and we're a real threat in this league. So I think going forward they need to have some confidence about them in their defense, because I think even with the offensive showing this week, that the defense is still the strong point in Houston.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. One statistic that stood out to me against Miami this week is they managed to keep them 4 for 13 on third down, which is fantastic. Just another testament to how good the defense is. They didn't get a ton of pressure on Osweiler, but they were able to hold them on third down more than enough times.
Yeah, and I think obviously also why we're not being a elite quarterback, but he was doing the job in Miami. So for them to kind of just be able to stop him completely, I think was huge. Because he was kind of chugging on forward, but I think Miami after this week is will kind of be calling for Tannehill to hopefully come back pretty soon for them.
Yeah, I mean Osweiler has definitely done enough. I said what if they could manage to go 2-1 in the time that Tannehill was out, if he would come back next week, that would be good enough. Well, at this point, if they could go 2-2, that would probably be good enough. But it would definitely they'd be better off if Tannehill would come back in this upcoming week. Haven't heard any news on him though.
Yeah. Like I said last week, I think that his injury was a little bit more serious than they originally thought. So I think they're going to play it safe with kind of keeping him off the field if they don't need him on the field. Obviously, you know Brock went 2-2 in Tannehill's absence, so it's not terrible when he's not losing. The season for the team. So I think they're still okay going forward, but Miami needs to definitely get a win this next week to get some confidence back for them, so that they're not falling too far behind in the division.
Yeah, no, they definitely need a win against against the Jets, because after that it doesn't get much easier with Green Bay. But yeah, the last just looking here, the last news on Tannehill was that he started to throw lightly this past week. Nothing new yet. Probably we'll have to wait until Monday or Tuesday to hear anything else.
Yep, most definitely, especially with them having the Thursday night game. So he has a little bit extra time to recover in regards to going forward next week. He has this whole weekend, obviously, and then they don't play until Sunday, 1 o'clock next week.
Yeah, yeah. One more thing to touch on with this Thursday night game, as you want to obviously Houston won. It was a big game for them, but they also suffered quite a big loss. Wide receiver Will Fuller is done for the season with a torn ACL. Is it time for Dez Bryant to get signed in Texas?
um, no, I don't think so. I'm not gonna go and panic. I think my favorite guy needs to step up. I think hands down the coolest name in the NFL, Kiki QT, needs to step up in Houston, and he's had a little bit of an impressive season so far, and I think he'll be able to step up in Fuller's shoes. They kind of have a similar play style, and they're both pretty quick off the ball. Obviously, QT, they use him kind of as a slot guy. But he's been very solid this year, so I think he'll be able to step up and kind of just fill in for Fuller. Obviously, like you said, huge loss because Fuller actually had a 100-yard game this past season. So, this past game before he got injured. So I think it's definitely taken away from him. Almost 200 yards for QT on the season, just a touchdown, but he's only had 21 catches. So I think you can look for him to step up this week and have some more receptions, and for DeAndre Hopkins to kind of step up even more than he's done lately. He had 2 touchdowns this last game and 82 yards. So I don't think it's time to sign Dez Bryant. Unfortunately, if you were getting your hopes up that I was going to say yes.
No, I figured you probably wouldn't. I did read a rumor that it may have been a possibility, but obviously just a rumor. But no, I think he's gonna get a lot more opportunities. Obviously now with Fuller out, he's just got to be able to make the most of them.
Most definitely. We will see going forward. Time tells, but I think Houston's okay, especially with their run game picking up. That they're might be able to kind of focus more so on that than the pass game. But I mean, they have one of the best receivers in the league, period, and Kiki. So Kiki step up, and maybe who knows? Maybe they have somebody step up from one of their lower string wide receivers, or pick up or call up somebody from the practice squad. But nah, I don't foresee them picking anybody up just because Will Fuller was done. I don't think Fuller was that much of an impact in the first place in order for them to go out and like get a receiver. I don't think it's a huge injury as it would to be for say Juju or AB or AJ Green in Cincinnati
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something like that. So
It's not
I
cause
think
for panic
Houston.
just yet.
Yeah, I think Houston's okay. Along the lines of this Thursday night game, what do you think's next for Miami? You think they kind of continue trending downward? Do we think we're going up? Think they're get a little confidence back and get a win this week?
I mean, I think that's what they need to do, especially with the schedule going forward and not knowing when Tannehill is going to be back. They desperately need a win in the next couple weeks here. Obviously, they have the Jets coming up, then Green Bay, Indy, Buffalo, New England. Up to that point, it's not going to be easy going. They're not quite in a complete hole just yet. But they definitely need a win coming up here, and getting Tannehill back would be huge. But I don't think that's going to happen just yet. At least not for a couple weeks.
Yeah, no, I don't foresee him returning this week or even maybe next week. But hopefully they're able to just kind of coast with these games, and run game can help them out. So we will see going forward. We'll swing right on into our picks. Like we always do, we'll talk about the Homer game, Pittsburgh versus Cleveland. Cleveland, obviously on the downward. Pittsburgh, obviously on the up. Uh, Managing to climb the division and be at the top of the division on their bye week, always huge. In Cleveland, obviously doing what Cleveland does. Um, got those couple wins, but obviously had some serious blows. Tampa Bay last week overtime, Oakland
Another one.
overtime. I it's scary how many games this Cleveland team has to play in overtime. But I don't foresee this week going into overtime. Obviously, it's a divisional matchup. It's going to be huge, like it always is. Doesn't matter who it is in the division. Somebody always has something to fight for. And I think going forward, Pittsburgh obviously needs to win to keep their dominance in the division. And Cleveland is hungry for a win after these last couple frustrating weeks.
Yeah, they keep losing these real close games, but I mean, even last season, that's what it was. They lost so many close games in the the midst of going 0-16. They're definitely going to come in here hungry. I expect the Steelers defense more than anything to step up huge. They didn't play all that well in week 1 versus them. Obviously, when it ended in a tie, they did enough in the end with the blocked field goal to not get the loss, but the defense as a whole, I think, wants to redeem themselves, especially with how they have played the past 2 weeks here before the bye week. They wanna keep that momentum going. Um, with the Browns getting rid of Carlos Hyde, obviously I think they still have a run game, but it's going to be interesting to see if Nick Chubb can step up against the Steelers D, even more so than Baker. I expect Baker to come out ready as well. But I expect to see what Nick. I'm really excited, I should say, to see what Nick Chubb's able to do, if anything. He's shown
Yeah,
flashes.
yeah. I think we didn't really get a last week of kind of like what he was able to do. Um, and I don't know. I feel like he didn't get enough carries for that to for anybody really to get a good idea. So curious to see this week if they try to rely a little bit more on the run game. I mean, obviously, as an owner of Nick Chubb, that I would love to see it. My running game in fantasy has been atrocious. So I don't want to see him walk all over the Steelers D, but I'm curious to see as to, obviously he had that huge game before where he had 100 yards with while Hyde was the main back. So we'll see if he can, not be a flash in the pan and kind of show some more signs of life from previous games. I think with Hyde being out and him being the main back, obviously they're still going to have some type of tandem in Cleveland just because of they like to use um, Mr. Johnson as the receiving back out of the backfield. Doesn't really matter if it's Chubb or Hyde. They always went to Johnson as like a receiving back or like an outside back if they were going to do any like pitches or sweeps or anything like that. So obviously Chubb's not going to get all of the carries, but I'm curious to see if he does step up. And I think in order for Cleveland to be more successful than they were last time that they faced Pittsburgh, that they need to establish some type of run game.
Yeah, no, this is going to be a real good test for Chubb, and just along the lines with the tandem with Johnson, they didn't pay him. I think it's like $15 million or $5 million a year to just not have him in there. So we'll definitely see a back and forth between the two of them this upcoming week.
Yep, most definitely. Curious to see how they do. Um, Going forward, obviously, rough couple of last weeks for Cleveland, and like I always say, they Cleveland it up. I I don't know if it's just Cleveland as a city, Cleveland as a football team, Cleveland curse, what it is, but they managed to lose all these really close games and stuff, And obviously, anybody who's a fan of Cleveland is a little bit frustrated. That being said, you think Hugh Jackson is kind of on the hot seat for this? Me personally, I don't know. I don't know what it takes for Hugh Jackson to be on the hot seat. You would think after these couple seasons of him doing so poorly that he would have been at the beginning of the season, but I don't know.
I don't know. I've always thought that a lot of teams don't give coaches enough time. Obviously, we see what the Steelers do. Nobody gets fired, and they just wait until they retire to get rid of a coach. And I applaud Cleveland for actually keeping Hugh around after last season. Granted, they said they were going to do that no matter what happened before last season. They said they would keep him. But I think with him and with all, if you look at all the talent that this team has, at least on paper, I think it's pretty clear that his message just isn't really getting through to them. Not that, that always needs to be the case. Like the players obviously need to play, but I don't think he is saying the right things. They don't seem prepared, you could say. I think a blowout loss here this week, I would say he's gone, and Todd Haley gets announced as the new head coach of the Brownies Monday or Tuesday morning. Other than that, though, a close loss or obviously a win is not going to really do anything. But if they get embarrassed on Sunday, I think his time in Cleveland is up.
We shall see. I don't see it being an embarrassing game. Obviously,
No, they're
Pittsburgh.
going to come out ready. I mean, if they do come out unprepared, then that just shows exactly the problem. But I don't
Yeah,
expect
I
that.
just the last couple games between Pittsburgh and Cleveland have not been blowouts by any means on either sides of the ball. So I think obviously it's just going to be one of those closer games once again, which I hate saying as a Steelers fan because I would just love to just blow out Cleveland, but I just don't see it happening just with the recent climate of the two meeting.
Yeah, no, this is like obviously it's an important game for both teams, but it's going to be a real test to see if after some tough losses, some close losses, if Cleveland can still come out just as hungry. I uh, I anticipate them doing that, but you never know what you're going to get come Sunday.
Curious to see the matchup of Denzel Ward on Antonio Brown or Juju, whoever they line him up against. I think that's going to be real good. He's obviously one of the top rookie cornerbacks in the league this year. So uh, I I like to see this story. Me going to Ohio State, obviously, I liked Ward when he was there, and his collegiate performance has kind of translated over to the NFL. He's playing very top tier right now.
Yeah, no, it should definitely be a good matchup. He had, I believe it was 2 picks. He had a great game. His first week against the Steelers. It's going to be a good matchup no matter what they do. I think teams are going to maybe start shying away from double teaming AB just with how much Juju's been able to do, and then we've really yet to see what James Washington can do. Granted, he hasn't been given a lot of targets, but the targets he has been given, he hasn't really made much of. Um, so it'll be interesting to see what they do with him. Honestly, I could see them putting him on possibly on Juju just based on what he's been able to do, and still throwing a
Yeah,
double team to some sort of AB.
yeah, I feel they definitely don't need to go away from Juju. They kind of need to attack that head on because obviously leading the team in receptions and yards is definitely a threat. And with recent chemistry issues and double teams and stuff like that, I think AB and Ben's numbers kind of suffer there. But I look for this week for them to pick up a little bit. Hopefully, I don't see why they wouldn't. I feel AB's due for a nice big game. Obviously, he hasn't had a last couple games hasn't had a terrible game. His stats still say nicely, but if you actually watch the full game, you see that the chemistry is not there immediately, or I'm sorry, not the chemistry, the Wi-Fi is not there immediately. So we'll see going forward. But I feel the ball gets rolling on this real quickly, and AB has a big game this week.
Yeah, they need to come out real fast with the two of them, get a couple quick connections. I mean, they seem to get the connection figured out by the second half of these games. They need to start. They need to put up 4 quarters of good Wi-Fi connection,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I'll be
yeah. No
happy with that.
faltering Wi-Fi.
Yeah, no disconnects whatsoever.
Um, he, Marty made a note of this. I just wanted to bring that to light. Marty made a note of this, and I had to put a little parentheses and put LOL. Can Baker shock Yinzer Nation? I'm gonna I'm gonna let you answer that since that was your question, and we'll go from there.
Well, obviously, everybody who has listened to this knows that I am a Baker Mayfield fan. Um, I just kind of put this as a talking point just because I thought it would be interesting just to laugh about. I'm not saying that he can't. I'm not saying the Browns can't beat them. Baker Mayfield is obviously a lot different of a quarterback than Tyrod Taylor is. He's not going to be afraid to throw the ball. He's not going to be afraid to try to make plays. I think he's going to come out hungry. He knows how big this game is. You know, his first game he's starting against Pittsburgh. What rookie quarterback in a divisional matchup would not be just excited and over the top hyped to be in this game? I don't think they're gonna. I don't think he's gonna do it. I don't think he's gonna have a bad game though. I think he's gonna have a real solid outing. In the end, I think the defense is gonna let the Browns down this Sunday.
No, I honestly, I think he'll have a decent game. Cleveland historically though the last three matchups, defensively they have not been able to stop JJ Watt or TJ Watt. My God, I can't talk today. Um, and it's just been like a logistical nightmare for them. So I think going forward that they need to find a way to stop him, and obviously we piled up the sacks last time that we played them, so I think that's definitely going to be a big contributor. I feel we'll still have a good amount of sacks this game, but I feel maybe Cleveland will kind of get an understanding as to how to stop those pass rushes a little bit better as compared to last time. But I think Baker needs to rely on getting the ball out quickly against the Steelers D after seeing how Tyrod Taylor managed the first game.
Yeah, no, they're gonna definitely make those adjustments. It's gonna be big to see if they're able to actually stop TJ. Baker's a little bit more mobile, definitely quicker at getting the ball away. A lot quicker getting the ball away compared to Tyrod. So they're definitely going to see some different looks. But getting pressure on him, I think, is going to be key. The Steelers tend to struggle. It seems like always against mobile quarterbacks. Baker's not necessarily a running quarterback, but he is mobile, if that makes sense. And it's going to be on the Steelers to contain him, to be able to contain him. It's going to be a big factor in this game, I think.
Yeah. So what's your final score here?
I got the Steelers winning 30-17. Um, it's going to be another good defensive performance for them. I don't see this one being close like the other ones in the previous couple matchups. It would be nice to have the Steelers have a divisional game that wasn't 3 points or less at the end, and I'm hoping that's what we get this weekend. Cleveland, like I said before, I think the defense is going to let them down. They're going to have a couple costly mistakes, especially in coverage with Juju and AB going out there. And then on Cleveland's side of the ball, like I said, defense is going to let them down. But I think Baker and the offense, they're going to have a pretty solid day. They're going to do everything that they can, but in the end, it's just not going to be enough.
Fair, fair, fair. I have them winning 28-17. Same thing. Obviously, Steelers taking over the Browns. I just feel Steelers correct their mistakes that led to a tie the first week against Cleveland. So I think they're able to figure out Cleveland's defense and kind of not so much pick those apart, but pick where they need to throw and make big plays of it. I don't foresee a huge running game from James Conner. I feel like they tend to do a little bit more passing against Cleveland than running this game. So we'll see going forward. But I also have the Steelers winning here 28-17 over Cleveland.
Yeah, it should be a fun one to watch. Ideally, I want to blow out, but but I would take 13 points. I'll be fine with that.
Yeah, I'll be okay with just something I don't have to bite my nails at the end.
Exactly. Week 1 was a bit of a nightmare.
And so was the last time the Steelers played football.
Yes, absolutely was.
Not so much maybe a nightmare, but it was definitely a nail biter.
Yep. All right, guys. Moving on. Obviously, we did our homer talk for the week. We each have 2 games that we picked as well, sticking to that format this week. I will start first here with probably the game of the week, I would say, in the NFL. Green Bay versus the Rams. This is going to be an interesting one. Green Bay is sitting at 3-2-1. Rams obviously are 7-0. Going into this one, I think there is just one thing that you have to say primarily. You can just never doubt Aaron Rodgers. The record really doesn't say to me what the Green Bay Packers are. This is going to be a real interesting matchup. I think a real tough matchup for LA. It's going to come down to whether or not the Packers can actually stop Todd Gurley. They're averaging giving up 116 yards rushing this season. I think if they can contain Todd Gurley and manage to have somewhat of just even a mediocre defensive outing overall, the Green Bay could definitely pull this one out. I have Green Bay winning this in a real tight one, 24-20 on a last-minute Aaron Rodgers drive. You wouldn't have it any other way. So this is going to be a real good one. I'm going to watch the Steeler game. I hope this one is actually on one of the local channels because I would love to catch this full game.
If not, you can always illegally stream it.
That's a
But
possibility too. Yes, absolutely.
yeah, no, I also agree with you that it is a very big game. And I'll get more into my feel about this game in one of my hot takes. But yeah, no, I have to agree with you, and I think that this is going to be real nitty and gritty, and I feel Rogers is going to play a serious factor in this game, and the Rams I feel don't know how to adjust for him. So haven't really faced a top tier quarterback so far. So we will see going forward how Rodgers and the Rams defense play out. But I'm just gonna say I agree with you for now. Like I said, I'll get more into it in my hot take.
Yeah, just like one more quick thing on this. Obviously we know what LA brings to the table in terms of the run game. When you look at Green Bay, they virtually have no running game. With Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones being their 2 backs, both of them combined don't even have 500 yards rushing this season, which to an extent makes Green Bay one-dimensional, but that comes back to never doubt Aaron Rodgers. I think LA knows what's coming, obviously, but it's just going to be a matter of whether they can handle Aaron Rodgers or not.
Yep. It's gonna be an interesting game for sure.
Absolutely.
My pick or one of my picks for this week was the Baltimore versus Carolina game. Obviously, Baltimore 4-3 in the division is fighting for the top spot, just like everyone in our division. And Carolina coming off, obviously kind of like a shocking loss to the Redskins. I think going forward, that Carolina is the first team to figure out Baltimore's defense here this week. I think they kind of picked them apart just because of the different options that they have on offense. Obviously, their wide receivers aren't a bunch of standouts, but Christian McCaffrey is special, and I think they're able to utilize him just to the right extent in this game to kind of pick apart Baltimore's defense and do something that other teams have not. Obviously, Baltimore's number one in just about every category for defensive. They're averaging just under 14.4 points allowed a game, which is huge. Their total yards allowed 280, which once again, obviously with the Carolina offense, they're averaging 363 yards a game. So for them to kind of put up maybe those numbers and to average the 136 yards a game that they're averaging on the ground would be huge. I I think the Ravens are kind of shocked by this, and obviously, like we've talked about before, the Ravens don't have a huge offensive balance there. It's kind of just more one dimensional, just with how dominant their defense is. I uh, I think Carolina takes this, not in blowout fashion, but in definitely a commanding win. I'm calling it a 24-13 win, Carolina over Baltimore.
Yeah, it's gonna. This is it, honestly. This is another one. Like we said when we started, there's just a lot of good games this upcoming weekend. It'll be interesting to see if Carolina can figure out this defense because nobody's really been able to do it yet. I definitely think they'd be able to. I think Christian McCaffrey is a special player. Obviously, they can use him in the receiving game, the running game. It's going to be on on the Baltimore D to figure him out. But I think I'm going to agree with you. I think it's going to be somewhat of a closer game, but just in the stat department, I think their defense is going to get shredded. They're going to put 350 plus yards, maybe 400 total, over 100 rushing with McCaffrey. It's going to be a tough day for Baltimore's defense for sure. I think.
Yeah, yep. I think it's a tough day for Baltimore and a tough realization that they come to that even record with a loss here. But it's the NFL, so you never know. But I honestly think Carolina figures out Baltimore.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to touch on Baltimore here real quick. The overhaul, just one thing that surprised me about them, and it could play a factor in this, played a factor in pretty much every game that they've been a part of, is how they've managed to overhaul their passing game this season. The Ravens currently have 4 players with 25 receptions or more, and 3 of those players have 250 plus yards or more through the air. It's just kind of crazy to me how this quick turnaround for them, and it's something that just a lot of teams don't really seem to be prepared for when they essentially have 4 number 1 receivers. Just with the way that Flacco is passing the ball around to them, it makes them a real unique offense through the air.
Yeah, and it's stuff that they haven't had in previous years. So obviously, it's a little bit shocking to teams. But I think the lack of like a consistent run game is what hurts them
Yeah,
on offense. Obviously, just kind of being more one dimensional, then that kind of makes defenses be able to understand you a little bit more. John Brown's had some huge games though, so I look to see how he does this weekend. I think he has another really good game. But like I said, I still have Carolina coming out on top.
yeah, no, but it'll definitely be a good one. Moving on to the next pick, you could argue that even with 2 1-6 teams going up against each other, this pick that I have is probably the most boring of the games this week. I have Tampa Bay versus Cincinnati. Uh, I really kind of wonder if anybody honestly cares about this. The real intrigue for me with this one is these are 2 teams that are essentially fighting for their lives. Cincinnati only sitting at 4-3, but I think they are right on the cusp of completely falling apart. So a win for them would absolutely do wonders. And then with Tampa Bay as well, they're fighting at this point. I think more so to maintain a wild card spot in the division, with New Orleans at 5-1. There's not really too many interesting points to talk about with this game. The one thing that stands out to me is Tampa has they've been able to put up points pretty consistently this season. They've also managed to give up a lot of them. So this game definitely has the making for a shootout with 2 pretty lackluster defenses going up against each other. It's one of the points I have here is whose D can hold up. I think it's more so which D can bend and not break by the end of this game. I have this not being a high scoring affair, more of a closer game, but I have Tampa Bay winning 28-20 over Cincinnati, and we can officially say that the Bengals are bungling after this week.
Yeah, I think I have to agree with your first statement on who really cares about this game. But no, you do make some good points on. I think Cincinnati obviously fighting for the division there. And Tampa Bay fighting for to not completely lose their season here. Um, I feel both these defenses have been kind of struggling lately, but Cincinnati at least has an offense. Tampa Bay really hasn't had an offense as of late, so the Fitz magic has went out the window, and I think Cincinnati just ends up winning this game simply off the fact that that Tampa Bay can't really produce anything offensively, and their defense is pretty lackluster also. So I see Cincy getting a win out of here, and hopefully stays in the division for them.
Well, I hope you're wrong. Just throwing it out there. I would like the division to slowly start to become a little bit easier to get a grasp on.
Hey, I'm with you there, but I'm just trying to be a more of a realist.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know you're saying they can't really put anything together. They've been inconsistent, but they have obviously been able to throw points up. We can touch on this, I guess, one final time. Obviously, the Fitz magic ran out a few weeks ago. Winston has done okay in since coming back, but they don't look like a real complete team. They were a flash in the pan at 3-0.
Yeah, yeah, definitely a flash in the pan. So we'll see this week. I am curious. Like I said, it's the NFL; it can go either way every week. But I unfortunately see Cincy beating Tampa Bay here.
Just a correction, they were 2-0. Sorry, not 3-0 when the Steelers came rolling on into town. But yeah, you get the point.
My pick for the week was Minnesota versus New Orleans, which you could argue, obviously Marty said his game's the game of the week and all this, but with the big playoff game last year, obviously winning in the last seconds there with a huge catch and miscue on the Saints defense. This isn't exactly a rivalry, but I feel there's some hatred there that have the Saints have towards the Vikings for winning how they do, and both these teams are obviously really hot right now. So I think New Orleans has a absolutely stacked offense and defense. Their run defense is first in the league, believe it or not, but they were really lacking in the pass game, which is weird. Obviously, with the Marshawn Lattimore being so dominant last year, but he's not having too much help on the back end other than himself. So with the Saints going out and picking up Eli Apple, I think that was huge. So it kind of makes them a real threat on both sides of the ball, and it makes teams question like where can we attack this team that we're going to be successful? Because I think Eli Apple has a wonderful rest of his season over in New Orleans, and I feel he helps them to win games. Obviously, Minnesota getting in their strides as of late. Kirk Cousins kind of figuring out what he needs to do in Minnesota, and Latavius Murray having a good couple quiet weeks that nobody seems to be talking about. That he's played a real good role in the offense, and obviously Thielen and Diggs being one of the best receiving duos in the league as of late. I think this is going to be a shootout. I just because of how good their offenses are, I don't see this being a lower scoring game. But I see the script flipping in this one, and New Orleans beating Minnesota. I'm gonna say 38-28.
All right, I like that pick. I definitely have New Orleans. I'll agree with you on this one too. It is going to be a shootout. I didn't really. I saw this game. I didn't really think of it though the way you were thinking of it as. But with these two offenses going up against each other, it's going to make for some big fireworks. I think. Oh man, I'm kind of regretting saying my game is the game of the week now. Just looking at this on paper here, you might be right.
See, guys, see, you can't self proclaim a game of the week before we have all games out in the
This is
open.
true. I've learned my lesson. I will not do this again. Don't you worry. No, but
um,
this is, man. This is gonna be an interesting one. This is Sunday night too, isn't it?
yeah,
Oh
yep, it's
man, it
Sunday night
is.
game.
It is. I bet it. You
Yep,
know
so
what?
it's
I
prime
bet they would
time.
have. They probably would have flexed Green Bay and LA if Green Bay had a better record to this point. I bet they would have done some sneaky stuff like that. But that's beside the point. Now this is definitely going to be a fun one to watch. I appreciate good defense, but I think at the end of the day, the majority of fans want to see touchdown after touchdown after touchdown, and I think that's what we're going to get on Sunday night.
Yeah, I feel this is just going to be back and forth. Who can last? Who can score the last couple of touchdowns and stuff? So, I I think Drew Brees and his veteran leadership kind of allows him to get a late touchdown here, and I feel maybe so just makes a miscue and screws up, and then they New Orleans is able to score again. So I think that's why I didn't pick it such a close score, but I definitely see New Orleans winning here, just because I don't feel Minnesota's quite good enough yet to beat this dangerous Saints team.
It would definitely say a lot though if Minnesota can pull this one out. It would be big for them. That's for sure.
Most definitely. We are going to roll into the hot takes after all of our picks for this week. Hopefully we maintain a solid record. We'll have the overall record for all our picks as of next weekend. Or I'm sorry, well, yeah, I guess it would be next weekend because we'll be posting it Saturday. So next weekend we'll have our overall record so far for all our previews and stuff.
All I can say is
Um,
I'm doing pretty good.
yeah, we'll see after this week. Okay. I'm not 100%. I think I have a general idea of how I've been doing, but we'll get a better idea once we review stuff and go over it. My first hot take for this week, or I guess this season more so, Eagles don't make a wild card spot and they miss the playoffs. I don't foresee the Eagles winning the division with Washington kind of just coasting through all of these wins. And I feel the Eagles are kind of on a downward trend right now, which is a shame to say because I really like the Eagles. And I liked their run last year, but for whatever reason, I don't see them getting it together and getting their magic working. I just think there's too many talented teams in the NFC too right now that they're not going to be able to make a wild card spot.
Yeah, they definitely don't have that same magic that they did last year. I think they're still gonna probably squeak in. I'll have to disagree with you on that. They're barely gonna get in. They obviously need to have a big game Sunday morning against Jacksonville in London. But if they manage to lose this one, you might be right. They may not even make it with the way Washington's kind of just coasting along here. They still play. Do they still play Washington twice too? Don't they? Let me see here.
Yep.
Yeah, they do. They
Yep.
play them in week 13 and 17. I mean, honestly, if things go right, week 17 could end up being a real important game. That could be the division for both of them.
Yeah, I foresee Eagles finishing with a winning record. I'd say like a 9-7, but it's just one of those years where 9-7 is good enough to make a wild card spot.
Yeah.
So I don't foresee it. Also, huge news for the Eagles and Jacksonville game. AJ Bouye is out, didn't travel with the team to London. So there goes another hit to the Jacksonville D. So if Eagles do lose this game, then they're in some serious trouble.
And we have confirmed that Bortles is starting that game. I think we confirmed that last week, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see how long he stays in there. uh,
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see.
all right, guys. Moving on to the next hot take we have here. Kind of, I guess, touched on this during my pick, but I believe Green Bay is the team to beat right now, right behind LA. If they can manage to pull this one off against LA, I think people need to really be concerned with the Green Bay Packers. There's a lot of teams like that, kind of a little bit of resurgent for a couple of them. You could throw New England in there, even the Steelers, especially if they win this week when people were doubting them in September. But it just, I feel like I'm kind of riding Aaron Rodgers because I don't like Aaron Rodgers, but I respect what he does, if that makes sense. I think he just has that ability and that clutch gene to where you just can't doubt them no matter what situation. They could be down by 2 touchdowns with 2 minutes left, no timeouts. Like I could still see them somehow managing to win that game. You know, if they can get the ball back after a touchdown, he just has that ability to carry the team. He's shown it before, and if he stays healthy, I worry for the league when facing Green Bay.
Yeah, you know what? I think the only downside to Green Bay right now is their defense. Obviously, Rodgers is going to do Rodgers. Um, be pretty impressive in all sides of the ball, but I just think the only way that they're going to kind of crumble and not do so well is on their defensive side of the ball. But yeah, no, if they have Green Bay, winning this week, that uh, it's going to be a crazy, crazy weekend. And I just feel like if their defense can hold up, that they're going to be a real threat in the NFC here.
Yeah, I mean, if just going back to what I had talked about, if they can manage to stop Todd Gurley, if they can keep Todd Gurley at like 100 yards, I think that's something to consider an accomplishment with how bad the run D especially has been for them. So we'll see if they can do it. But if that D can hold up too, man, they're a complete team.
Yeah, and actually on the side of the Todd Gurley and holding him under 100 yards, when they played against the 49ers last week, obviously a lackluster team, um, Gurley was held to under 90 yards total. That's receiving and rushing. I held to under 90 yards. Obviously, had 3 touchdowns, so didn't matter too much. But a struggling 49ers team was able to keep him under 100 yards. So I think that's positive news for Green Bay going forward.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's going to be real interesting to see what they can do against him.
Going along with that, my other hot take was that the Rams lose this week. So it kind of didn't want to touch on it when he was talking about his pick, but because I want to go a little bit more in depth here for the hot take, I feel the Rams are on this hot streak. Obviously, I think something needs to fall eventually. And I just think it's this week that the Rams fall and get their first loss of the season. I just feel like because there's not enough, I would say, veteran leadership on the Rams. This is kind of all new to them. Obviously, they did well last year, but it's new to them, all this success. And I feel they run into a lot of the issues that they haven't dealt with in Aaron Rodgers. And I just feel like the Rams aren't going to have the mojo that they've had previous weeks for this game against Green Bay. And I just foresee a huge game out of the Green Bay defense here. Like I said, obviously with the 49ers holding Gurley to a measly, uh, you know, 80 something yard game, that he definitely isn't a factor in this game if they're able to shut him down. And I feel if that is the case, then the wide receivers on the Rams side are just not quite good enough to pick it up for the Rams.
Yeah, they're due for somewhat of a down week, and obviously my pick was Green Bay winning this one, and I think this will be that week.
Yep, we will just have to see, but I see some Rogers magic for
Yeah,
this weekend.
it's always there. That candle has been lit for a long time. Moving on, the final hot take for this week is Buffalo is going to upset New England. And the second part of this is Nathan Peterman's going to have a career game. You want to know how he's going to do that? He's not going to be in there to throw an interception whatsoever. Derek Anderson is the starter, has been announced the starter for this game against New England. Buffalo, in just the past couple years, for as long as really I can remember, they tend to have these sneaky games where they're just absolutely not supposed to win. I haven't seen the line for this. I believe I heard it this week that New England is favored by 14.5 points in this game, which is absolutely ridiculous. But one way or another, I see them doing it. I see this defense stopping Tom Brady. I don't know if Gronk. I haven't actually heard if Gronk is out this week still. But this is going to be a sneaky win for Buffalo. Not one that's going to ruin New England, but this is a game that they're going to look back and like, man, we really should have beat them.
Yeah, the line on that is 14 for the Patriots.
Yeah, so it's the same. I think that was Monday morning. I heard that. So
Yeah, I honestly, when you came out of the gates with the super hot takes on Peterman having a career game and the Bills getting a win, I was going to shoot you down, but then I did remember that Anderson was called starter, so I think it's good that Peterman's on the bench. And going forward, like we've talked about so many weeks, this Buffalo team is just such a wild card. You never know what you're going to get with them. And I think Derek Anderson, obviously, him being, I think he's 36.
he's up
Him,
there.
I know he's at least 35, 36, might be 37.
You
Correct me if
remember
I'm
when he
wrong.
was a Browns quarterback? That's how old he is. It's been a
Yeah,
long time.
yeah, yeah. So I think he comes in and just because he's a veteran and he's been in the league for so long, that he's kind of just able to do what he needs to do, and I just I don't see this being out of the works. A win over New England. I don't expect it, but I would not be shocked at all just because Buffalo is just such a shocker every week.
Yeah, I think obviously I have the upset being the way this is going to go, but if I had to pick one of two ways, this is either going to be a tight one that Buffalo manages to pull out, or New England's going to put 50 plus points up on the board and they're going to blow them out of the water. So it's going to be one or the other, nothing in between.
Yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see going forward. The last and final juicy section of the podcast, the power rankings, which obviously we do every week. We're going to condense it a little bit this week. I have 3 words just to describe every team. And we're going to kind of summarize that real quick, and then just go from there. So I'm actually going to start with number 32, as compared to previous weeks where we start with the top. We'll leave the top one for the power rankings. So 32 have Oakland. Obviously, they're 1-6. The 3 words I have here is draft, hurry up. And I think you can understand what that means. Oakland needs this draft to hurry up. Their season is lost.
Hashtag screwed. We'll throw that in there from last week.
Yeah. So if you listened to last week, hashtag screwed, hashtag trash. It's basically all I can say. Number 31, Arizona, also 1-6. My 3 words were couldn't tie at number 32. So they had to be 31. I just see a little bit more upside on them just because of David Johnson, as compared to Oakland, but not much else positive going on in Phoenix.
No, they're in that state, and I think we had touched on this last week, where they just kind of need to get some of that young talent in there and see what they got. Not necessarily tank, but it's better to just see what you have available for the years going forward here. See if anybody stands out, diamond in the rough, so to speak.
Yeah. San Francisco is 1-6. And 3 words to describe them is need Garoppolo back. I feel he would make a difference in this team. Other than that, they don't really have much positive to look forward to.
No, they don't. They're in that same situation, like I said, with Arizona. Just trying that young talent out, and hopefully they can rebound next year with Garoppolo.
Yeah, we'll see. Like I said, but I don't know if it's going to be enough to turn them around. Number 29, New York Giants. 3 words: wasted talent, guys.
Lots of it.
Obviously, obviously, Odell Beckham, Saquon Barkley, Eli Apple, Olivier Vernon, or sorry, not Olivier, not Eli Apple anymore. He was there, obviously gone. Olivier Vernon, Sterling Shepard, just a lot of talent on the team, and just no chemistry.
No, none whatsoever. And they went on a little bit of a fire sale this past week with some players, and I could possibly see that continuing here before the deadline.
Yeah, supposedly Jenkins on the hot seat also.
I
So
didn't even
we'll
hear about that.
see if he's gone by the deadline. Number 28, Indianapolis. They are 2-5. Three words to describe them: Andrew needs weapons. And that's I'm just gonna let you figure that one out.
Yeah, I think that's pretty straightforward. It's unfortunate with how well he has been playing, even with the lack of talent that he has in front of him. There, he's done everything that he's been able to do. He's done more than enough, but they need to get some help for him.
Obviously, a little bit of positive upside. Marlon Mack, over 100 yards last game, but that would be the first showing of life for the Colts offense. Buffalo's number 27. They are 2-5. Three words to describe them. Who are we? Um, just wild card, wild card, wild card every week. I don't know what to make of this Buffalo team.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It's you just never know what you're gonna get.
Number 26, Cleveland Browns, 2-4-1. Three words to describe them: back to form. I think they're definitely back to Cleveland form.
Yeah, they definitely seem to be trending in the wrong direction. There's obviously some upside with some of the talent on the team, but even a few weeks ago, I had them winning 6 to 7 games. It's looking like a something of the past. I don't think that's happening.
Number 25 is Tennessee. They're 3-4. This is the only three words that I have an exclamation point by because I feel it's that important. Close out games. Obviously went for 2 points last week and it cost them the game. Stop doing stupid shit and you'll get a win.
Yeah, no, they we touched on that pretty heavily last week. The mind-boggling decisions there at the end of that game that cost them. They could have had a big win over LA, and poor decision making cost them. See if they can figure it out this week.
Hopefully. 24, the New York Giants, 3-4. Three words. Please don't panic. They lost to the Vikings, obviously. It, not the prettiest game for them, but I don't think it's a reason for them to panic. I still think Darnold's a really good quarterback, and they have some good things to look forward at. Their defense is okay, and their run game has actually been pretty decent. Obviously, Bilal Powell, he's out, but Crowell has been playing very good as of late. So we'll see going forward.
Yeah, they're lucky to have that 1-2 punch there with their running game. And as for Darnold, like you said, don't panic. We've talked about that before. The Jets tend to give up on quarterbacks. The fans give up on the quarterbacks too quick. But I like what I've seen with him. I think it's just a matter of giving them time. I could see Jacksonville squeaking in into the playoffs, into a wild card, maybe.
Um, yeah. So number 23 is Jacksonville, 3-4. We heard it all of last year. Um, their nickname, Saxonville. So my three words are: where is it? I I don't see it existing this year, and I see a lot of problems in the state of Florida.
Yeah, I think Jalen Ramsey kind of talked them into a corner, talking that defense up, saying how bad everybody else was. I mean, he doesn't have too much to say these days other than I don't know. So I don't know. Where are they
Yeah,
at?
yeah. I don't. Number 22 is Miami. They're 4-4. Three words: Tannehill come back. I think in order for them to get back on track, they need to get Tannehill back.
Yeah, they absolutely do. Osweiler obviously is just not cutting it. If it's another week or two, they need some big performances out of him to stay on track until he gets back.
Yep. Number 21, Denver. They are 3-4. Three words: fight for a division. Obviously, they were kind of looking very sluggish out of the gate. and have won some important games as of late. So still in the fight for that division. So continue what you're doing, and maybe you'll be up there for a wild card spot.
Yeah, they just got to keep grinding these games out. It seems like Keenum just can't seem to find his feet in Denver. I think that's a real key to them having some success, and they're not quite out of time yet, but they're getting there.
Number 20, Dallas, 3-4. 3 words. Cooper shows up, and there's a question mark beside that because I don't feel that it's going to make a difference with Amari Cooper. I still feel they're going to be the same Dallas team.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I kind of pooed on Cooper last week a little bit. I've always liked what he's been able to bring to the table. He's not like one of the best receivers in the league, but he has that ability. Um, I think he shows up. I think he has a decent game, but I don't think he solves Dallas's problems by any means.
Also has the highest percentage of dropped passes since 2014. So just keep that in the back of your mind.
I blame my
Um,
quarterback.
Number 19 is Tampa Bay, and they're 3-3. 3 words, barely beat Cleveland, and I think that sums up their season. So to barely beat Cleveland, I think you need to look at some of your issues going forward.
Yeah, they definitely do. They're kind of a team that's out there. They could somehow squeak into a playoff spot with these close wins, but they could have done a lot better against Cleveland, especially with how they've been able to play offense this year, which how inconsistent their offense has been at times.
Number 18, Philadelphia at 3-4. 3 words. Who's defending champions? God, does this team look different than last year?
Yeah, they definitely do. It's weird too because the offense is pretty much all intact. Um, Obviously Ajayi's up, but I'm just kind of wondering where the same magic was from last year. I think they're a little hungover, maybe. I mean, Carson Wentz shouldn't be. He wasn't playing.
Yeah, a lot of questions there. Number 17, Atlanta, 3-4. 3 words, rally from behind. They're going to need to do a lot of that in order to catch back up in this division.
Yeah, they are. My statement of them winning out, I still think they can do it. We'll just have to see. Got a lot of work to do.
A lot of work. We'll see. We'll see if your bold prediction stays true. Number 16, Detroit, 3-3. 3 words. Can they win? It's one of those teams that I don't understand, and I don't know if Matt Patricia can coach either. So we'll see going forward how they finish out these next couple weeks. But they're a wild card team.
Yeah, they are. I mean, there's been some interesting calls with them. Obviously, they had the big win against New England, and then they look like a completely different team the following week. But it'll be interesting to see what they can do here.
Wow. Seattle, number 15, 3-3. 3 words, no real superstar. I just nobody sticks out to me on their team, but they kind of just manage to for their wins just kind of cohesively function and get done what needs to be done.
Yeah, we were far from the Legion of Boom days with Seattle. That's for sure.
Yeah, most definitely. Um, Number 14, Houston at 5-3, and 3 words, Watson in form. He's definitely back to his a true self a little bit more after this week, and needs to just continue this going forward for their success.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Obviously, we've been talking about it for weeks, and now it's finally come to happen here with him looking really good. So I expect more of the same and good things from Houston going forward.
Yeah, number 13, Cincinnati. They're 4-3, 3 words, catch up game. After these couple losses, I feel they definitely need to catch up and figure out what they need to fix in order to stay in the division race.
Yeah, they absolutely do. A win would be absolutely huge. The loss this upcoming week one would be a crushing blow to them. I think any and all hope for them would be lost with a loss to Tampa Bay.
Yeah, most definitely. Chicago. Chicago at 3-3. I'm sorry. Um, three words: scary defensive potential. Um, I feel their defense is really scary at times, but then got exposed against Miami, and just needs to figure out a couple things. But I still think they're a really good team.
Yeah, no, they definitely are. It was kind of eye opening seeing them get exposed like they did, but they seem to somewhat recover from that game.
Number 11, Baltimore at 4-3. Um, three words: defense stops teams. Obviously, the defense stops teams, but when your offense doesn't do quite enough, then you end up with a 4-3 record.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's that's pretty simple. Their defense is scary, just like Chicago. They definitely are, but they need a little bit more from the offense. I think having not to really extend this out a lot, but I think them having a better running game would go a long way for Baltimore to complement the wonderful pass game that they have had this year.
Yeah, I think they definitely need to figure out what they want to do with their season. Number 10 is Green Bay at 3-2-1. Three words: Rogers makes plays. He does it every week, and he just seems to be the same old Aaron Rodgers of so many years past.
Yeah, and once again, it's really all you need to say. As long as he's out there doing what he does best, you can't ever count Green Bay out.
Number 9, Carolina at 4-2. Cam wins games, and I think he's shown that as of late. Obviously, the blow from Washington was not so great last week, but I think going forward they correct the issues.
Yeah, no, he definitely wins games, but he will not go after a fumble for you. That is for sure. No, but I agree with you. They just got to keep rolling here with him, and I think they'll be in good shape. Him and McCaffrey. Yeah,
um, number 8, Washington at 4-2. Three words: whatever it takes. They once again they're not one of those teams superstars and not one of those teams that really has an identity. But they just use whatever it takes to win games.
yeah, no, their ability to make plays on special teams, defense, offense, it's allowed them to do that to do whatever it takes to get the job done. That's why they're at 4-2.
Number 7, Minnesota at 4-2-1. Three words: Kirk getting rhythm. I think he's kind of finding his stride in Minnesota, and it's helping them to win games.
Yeah, between him, the Kirk Cousins and Adam Thielen connection has gone a long way for Minnesota this year.
Most definitely. Number 6 is Pittsburgh at 3-2-1. Uh, three words is perfect the defense. I feel if their main lingering issue this year is the defense, and if they can perfect that, then they'll definitely be a threat.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's despite the the inconsistent Wi-Fi connection between AB and Ben, the offense is doing just fine. It definitely comes down to the defense staying consistent and doing what they need to do, especially like they have the past couple weeks.
Yep. Number 5 is Los Angeles Chargers, and they're 5-2. Three words: fly under radar. And I think they just always fly under the radar, and I think so does Philip Rivers. And they're looking like a scary good team this year.
Yeah, you actually stole what I was gonna say about how Rivers always flying on the radar, but I mean they kind of did the same thing last year, and then they ended up going on a tear at the end of the season. I don't think a lot of people expected it to continue this year, but even at a 5-2 record, like you said, they're still flying under the radar for some reason.
Yeah. Number 4, Kansas City at 1. Three words: Mahomes is scary. And I think anybody who watches football understands that.
Yeah, no, I think I said, I don't know if I said this to you in a private conversation or on the podcast last week, but just watching him throw the ball, it's a beautiful thing of beauty. It's terrifying as an opposing team though.
Most definitely. Number three is New England at 5-2. Three words: back to form. I think New England has corrected their issues and is doing what New England does best.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it seems like it's been for the past couple seasons. They have a rocky start in September. Everybody starts to doubt them. Is this the year? Is Tom Brady done? And here they are sitting at 5-2, one of the best teams in the league yet again.
Yep. Number two is Lynn Saint at 5-1. In three words: better each week. It just seems this team just improves every week and gets better and corrects what they need to correct. So I think they really give the Rams a run for their money in the NFC.
Yeah, I think Drew Brees and this New Orleans offense they continue to roll, and like you were saying, they make the adjustments each week to fix the errors from the previous one, which is why they continue to get better and better.
So at number one, we have the Los Angeles Rams. Who else would be at number one at 7-0? Three words: offense wins games. And I really don't think you need much of an offense or much of a defense when you have an offense like they do. So I think the Chiefs and the Rams are very similar, even though the Rams actually have a defense.
Yeah, in this day and age in the NFL, 30 points is pretty much all you need to get a win, especially with a good defense. A mediocre defense could get it done, but they are the full package in LA.
Yep, 100%. So that wraps up power rankings for the week. And like I said, that was our last wonderful, juicy section of our podcast. So we're going to wrap it up there. But thank you once again, guys, for listening. And we will be back Wednesday to talk about everything that happened with these wonderful games.
It's gonna be a fun weekend, that's for sure.
Yes, it is. Everybody have a good weekend, and we will talk to you guys later.
Thank you once again, guys, for listening to us yak. Have a good weekend. Goodbye.